As we discussed in the beta oxidation of fatty acids, this process occurs in our liver and muscle tissue. When our fatty acids are oxidized, they are broken down into acetyl-CoA. What we have to keep in mind is in eating, we are probably breaking down carbohydrates in addition to our fatty acids. And even when our fatty acids get triggered to be broken down because of a low blood glucose, how large those fatty acids are, we get a lot more acetyl-CoA than we do from glucose molecules. Therefore, when we go through beta oxidation, it is very easy to produce more acetyl-CoA than the citric acid cycle can handle in cell respiration, which means we've got to put that excess carbons somewhere. The body then converts these into what are called ketone bodies. Here are some examples of ketone bodies that the cell can generate. So acetone. You can have the acetate. So now we are having that carboxylate ion, which makes sense because the acetyl is a carboxylic acid compound. Acetoacetate, so we have acetone and the acetate come together. Or beta hydroxy butyrate or beta hydroxy butanoate, depending on IUPAC versus common name. I'm not going to ask you to be able to identify these. What I want you to take away is that these are carboxylate ions, which means they are acids. And that is really important in understanding the effect ketone bodies can have in the body, saying body a lot, in our system. So the ketone bodies, if they're being produced, they are soluble in our aqueous system. So they can leave our cells, move through the lymph or blood system into the liver, where we can undergo the glyconeogenesis to make glycogen, or go to adipose tissue to reform into our triacylglycerols. So ketone bodies are really versatile in that they can transport from the cell that is actively using or actively shuttling acetyl groups out and to our storage cells. Let's talk about the positives of ketone bodies, because a lot of times when we're talking ketone bodies, we are talking about the detriment of them because they can lead to ketosis, metabolic acidosis, really closely tied to diabetes, but they do serve a purpose. There is a reason why our body makes them. The brain has the largest mitochondria concentration within our whole body because it's always on. It is always working, so it needs a high supply of glucose or carbon in order to run cell respiration to have ATP so we can keep firing those neurons. If our blood glucose is low, our body is going to signal, hey, we need stuff now. The brain needs it. So we are going to then, from our liver and adipose tissue, we are going to secrete those ketone bodies. Those ketone bodies, because they are small, they can both be transported within our lymph and blood system, and they can cross the blood-brain barrier, which is really important. So when they can cross that blood-brain barrier, they get access to our neurons to supply the acetyl groups to run cell respiration effectively. So they serve this really, really important job during this fasting state, where we are going to make sure that our brain is still active and doing its job, even though we're not constantly supplying it with carbohydrates, because we have these stores already made. All right, let's talk about the downside of our ketone bodies. So really looking at diabetes and the issues we have with our insulin, kind of tying it all together. So ketone body production is very closely related to the concentrations of insulin and glucagon within our bloodstream. As a reminder, when we take in carbohydrates, our body moderates the level of blood glucose we have. As that blood glucose increases, our pancreas secretes insulin. Insulin then goes and triggers our cells to open up the protein needed to allow the glucose to move from the blood or lymph into the cells. If we don't trigger that insulin, so like type 1 diabetes, where it's not effectively made, there's something wrong with the pancreas cells, or in a type 2 diabetes where we are just not sensitive enough to the insulin, that is when the body is going to get triggered that we need energy, and we need energy now because the cells are not getting the blood glucose it needs. So this can occur from a decrease in the insulin or an increase in glucagon. Remember, glucagon is the hormone that signals glycogen to be broken down into glucose. So ketone bodies, because they're already broken down, go part of this system. So if we're going to follow our fatty acids, so we get this trigger to break down our triacylglycerols into the fatty acid and the glycerol backbone, and then those are going to go in this process within the liver. It's going to start breaking down our glycogen into the glucose monomers, but it's also going to create our ketones, our ketone bodies. So these are going to get shuttled into our blood. So once it's in the blood, there's a couple different places where the ketone bodies can go. So as the ketone bodies accumulate in the blood, they can get excreted in the urine, and this is one way to test for diabetes, because if we have too many ketone bodies floating around in the blood, that means we're not uptaking the sugar, or the body's just not handling our sugar levels effectively. So that is one way in which we can test. We can exhale, especially the acetone, because it's volatile. And so if you smell a diabetic's breath, especially when they're low on sugar and they're producing these ketone bodies and their body's not regulating with insulin as effectively, you can smell acetone on their breath. And then the effect that these ketone bodies can have is ketoacidosis. Ketoacidosis is when these acidic compounds, remember I told you to remember that they have these carboxylate ions, and those carboxylate ions are acids. They are going to react and interact with the buffer that's in our blood. That is that bicarbonate buffer that CO2 and water interacts with. And as we have investigated, buffers can crash. So if we overwhelm the blood buffer, which is a very narrow range that our body can reside in, we're going to go into metabolic acidosis. Metabolic acidosis can then lead to coma or death. And so this is what we have to really be mindful and careful with in the medical sense of these ketone bodies, and regulating how much glucose and fatty acids we are taking within our diet so that our body can make sure that it is monitoring and maintaining these levels. But since type 2 diabetes does not work well with insulin, we are not effectively uptaking all of this carbon into our cells to be used through cell respiration, and you can have that accumulation of those ketone bodies. We are now at the end of our digestion journey. So exciting. So here we have all three processes that we have talked about. We have our carbs. Note that glycolysis is the only anaerobic process that gives us ATP directly, which is why it's really important to have carbs as part of our diet for that quick energy to maintain glycolysis in some of those simple processes. We've talked about proteins and how the amino acids have to undergo transamination and deamination to make those keto acids. The keto acids are then intermediaries in the Krebs cycle, but they can also be converted into ketone bodies as necessary. But as I mentioned in the proteins are the last resort for making energy sources, right? They're going to go serve their function. So if we are out of carbs and we're low on fats, then we'll talk about proteins. So we're not as stressed about looking at that process of the proteins, keto acids, into the ketone bodies. So here, as we eat our lipids, specifically our triacylglycerols are the ones in which we can consume for energy. As we had talked about, once we have undergone and gone into the blood, right? If we have enough glucose, our citric acid cycle is running at peak efficiency, we will store our triacylglycerols in our adipose tissue. When we get signaled that we are low on carbohydrates, so we need to oxidize or break down our lipids, we can then move into beta oxidation. So beta oxidation will feed us more acetyl-CoA. Because these compounds are bigger, it's easier to overwhelm the acetyl-CoA in the citric acid cycle. So at some point, it's going to say, stop, we have enough. So then we are going to store those fatty acids in the liver, in the muscles. Once we get a shortage of that acetyl-CoA, especially in the brain, we can signal that ketolysis, where we make the ketone bodies for that quick jaunt to the acetyl-CoA, especially in the brain. Again, I'm not going to ask you specifics on any part of this process, but it's really important to have an understanding of how triacylglycerols are consumed and used within the body to understand the health of people, right? And potential patients in the future, or talking about diet and having an understanding of why we need a well-balanced diet between our proteins, our carbohydrates, and our lipids, because they all do serve an ultimate purpose.